All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to our very first research conversations this spring 2022. It's always a great pleasure to see faculty and graduate students come together to a common intellectual space to explore issues of common interest. And I'm particularly excited and really thrilled that we have two great scholars who will be leading our research conversation today. Not only are they great scholars, they are great colleagues and friends as well. Sarah Newcomer is an associate professor in literacy education on the Tri-Cities campus. Our research and teaching focus on culturally sustaining, socially just language and literacy practices and family school community partnerships, particularly for multilingual learners. Sarah has served on multiple grants in support of her research interests, including her current role as a co-PI with a team of COE College of Education colleagues led by Gisela. They are looking at ELL impact on that grant. Sarah recently began investigating how pre-service teachers' understandings of culturally sustaining, socially just pedagogy may be supported by collaborative conversations with aspiring school leaders. Our work has been published in outlets such as the Journal of Language, Identity and Education, Language Arts, and the Journal of School Leadership, among others. She has taught for over 20 years, including in a K-8 Spanish-English dual language program with business professionals in Japan and with families in a family literacy program. Kathleen Cowin is a co-presenter today. Kathleen is an associate professor career track in educational leadership, also on the WSU Tri-Cities campus. Kathleen's research focuses on the development of effective relational co-mentoring practices and the creation of co-mentoring cycles among educational leadership students. Our current co-mentorship research is focused on culturally sustaining, socially just pedagogy enhanced by collaborative conversations between pre-service teachers and aspiring school leaders. Kathleen served as a teacher and elementary as well as middle school principal for over 25 years and also completed her superintendent certification. Kathleen is past chair for the American Educational Research Association Mentorship and Mentoring Practices Special Interest Group. And just recently, 2020, she was selected as a member of the WSU President's Teaching Academy. Please join me in welcoming these two great colleagues, Sarah and Kathleen, as our research conversation speakers today. Sarah, over to you and Kathleen.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction, Shola, and thank you to you, Shola, and Laura, and AG as well, who I know was not able to be here today, but to all three of you for inviting us to share our research with you all today. We're excited to be here, and we want to say thank you to all of you for taking time out of your busy days to join us. We're really glad you're here.
And we also want to say a big thank you, a heartfelt thank you to our students who have so generously contributed to this research and participate in this research as our research partners. And we're hoping that there's several of them here. I've been scanning to see. So if you're one of our students, please give us a wave so that we know you're here.
And we would like to hold true to the spirit of a conversation. And so please, we invite all of you here to jump in at any time, ask us questions, make comments. We would really like it to be a conversation. And we do plan on saving some time at the end as well for conversation. So this is our plan for today, and with our best estimates for timing, we'll begin with a land acknowledgement. We'd like to frame our talk. We plan to share a little bit of our project's background, and then we'll share the collaborative conversation work that we've been doing, and then we'll conclude and open it up for further discussion with you all. Oops, excuse me.
And so Sarah and I would like to respectfully acknowledge that Washington State University Tri-Cities is located on the traditional lands of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla and bands of the Yakama Nation. And Sarah and I would just like to take a moment before we begin our talk today to check in with all of you, and to particularly acknowledge the hardships, the suffering, and the trauma caused by our worldwide pandemic. We also want to think about the inequities around social justice that were issues that were brought up by the differences that continue to be a source of division in our communities, whether those be seen as the recent local public school board meetings, or in climate change, or in international issues. We want to thank each and every one of you for all you do to bring education to our communities and to our world, because we believe that education is key to the work that needs to be done.
So we'd like to give you all, or share with you all a little bit of background about our collaborative research and how we got started. And our research partnership really begins with a story, and it's the story of a school leader. His pseudonym is Jim. He was also my former principal when I was a teacher, and you see a little piece of his story on the slide there. This story comes in part from early research that I did at my former school, which was my case study school. And I was at that time looking at how the school community as a whole had been able to negotiate Arizona's restrictive language policies. At that time, I was focused mainly on student and teacher and parent perspectives, and I hadn't really had the opportunity to think deeply about Jim and who he was and his leadership. And then once I came here to Tri-Cities and I got to know Kathleen, and we sort of struck up a friendship. Our offices are across the hallway from each other here on our campus. We started having conversations about our classes and what we teach. And I mentioned that I wanted to write about Jim, but I didn't quite know what the story was yet. And in our conversations, she really encouraged me to do that. And I said, well, you have to write it with me. And so I said, you know the leadership side of this. And so we collaborated on this piece, and that's how we got started. And this piece is actually sort of foundational to collaborative conversations. We share it with our students as well. And so what you see here on the slide is just a little snippet of a portrait we wrote about Jim. He was out on the school grounds frequently, greeting all who were around, picking up trash, sorting the recycling, checking on the bathrooms each week. And this was sort of a key practice that we wrote about. He would lead the school in a weekly ritual called Monday Morning Ritual. And he did this all the time. He would interweave Spanish and English back and forth effortlessly. And that is one of the things that really helped to shift the culture and climate of the school. Oh. Kathleen, were you gonna?
I was just gonna say that then after we wrote this piece, I began to use it in my leadership courses with the aspiring school leaders, and their response to reading the actions that Jim took day in and day out at the school really inspired them and gave them a real practical look at what a culturally sustaining, socially just leader could look like. And having this positive feedback from my students, I kept telling Sarah about it. And I said, you know, I think what we should do is we should bring them together to talk about the article. And that's really the way that the collaborative conversations got started, as we took up this idea of bringing the leader candidates and the teacher candidates together to talk about this article and some other articles that we put together to discuss culturally sustaining, socially just pedagogy.
So as we move into sharing the research about the research we've done through collaborative conversations, we feel it's important to pause and take a moment to recognize our positionalities, because of course, we bring who we are to our research and our teaching. And so I identify as white. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. I come from a blend of working and middle-class backgrounds. English is my dominant language. However, I learned Spanish as a second language, starting for a little while when I was 5, and then later again through school. And then I used it in my daily life as an educator. And I saw firsthand the power of teaching on a bilingual campus and in a dual language program, as well as the effects of Arizona's restrictive policies across the state, their restrictive language policies. And so this is where my passion and interest as a bilingual educator and later as a researcher came from. And I just acknowledge I have a certain amount of power and knowledge in my current position. And my own experiences are different from those of many of my students. I can't fully understand my students' experiences, but I seek to learn and listen.
And I identify as white, and my pronouns are she and her. And I grew up in the heart of the San Joaquin Valley in California. I come from a long line of farmers. I grew up on a family farm, and my father is the first in his family to go to college, and he completed his bachelor's degree in ag science on the GI Bill. And like Sarah, I had an interest in language, and I studied Spanish in middle school and high school and in college. And my first teaching position was as a bilingual kindergarten teacher in Spanish and English. I taught for 14 years, and then I served as an elementary and middle school principal for 16 years. For my family of origin, education was a huge focus. And I just want to give a deep, heartfelt thank you to my parents who provided me with an incredible education. And I also want to thank my students and their families who were also participants in my education then, and they continue to be.
So although we're going to focus mainly today on 2 strands of our research through the collaborative conversations, which are the teacher and leader preparation and the mentorship that is a part of that, we wanted to mention that we've also been very interested in stories and self-portraits. As you heard, we shared a portrait of Jim. And then one thing that we want to do going forward is something we're calling self-study. For the last several years, as we've been engaged in collaborative conversations, Kathleen and I meet almost weekly to plan, debrief, reflect. We have our own collaborative conversations when we meet, and we've been recording those, taking notes, and one of our next steps is to sort of delve more deeply into that and to write about our own learning experiences as well.
So we'd like to share our research questions with you now, and we're going to focus this talk today really on questions 1 and 2. And those questions are, what understandings do leader candidates and teacher candidates take away from the collaborative conversations? And in what ways, if any, do collaborative conversations support the leader candidates and the teacher candidates in learning about culturally sustaining, socially just pedagogy? Our data sources really focus on these 2-hour collaborative conversations that we have 4 times during the spring semester. And we videotape those collaborative conversations each time we meet. And often we transcribe key segments of the video that we take of the collaborative conversation. Sarah and I both also take field notes during the collaborative conversations. And as Sarah said, we meet almost weekly to debrief our notes and to talk about the videos or to look at the videos. We also have the students write a reflection after each collaborative conversation, and we take time to review those, as well as assignments that we do in our individual classes, such as the student buddy interview and written reflection, literacy lessons and written reflection, and self-portraits and reflection. This slide gives an overview of our fabulous research participants and partners. And as you can see, they come from a variety of backgrounds and speak a variety of languages. We have a total of 81 students who have participated in the last 3 cohorts of the collaborative conversation, with 25 of them being leader candidates and 56 of them being teacher candidates.
And as Kathleen mentioned, the wonderful diversity in backgrounds and languages spoken by the participants, our students that are participating. We wanted to mention that many of these students have also been participants in either the ELL Impact Alternative Route to Teaching program or the Washington State Block Grant Alternative Route to Teaching programs. ELL Impact led by Dr. Gisela Ernst-Slavitt, and the Washington Block Grant on our campus led by Dr. Judy Morrison and Lindsay Leitner as well. And we, Kathleen and I, have been so lucky to have their voices of these participants in our collaborative conversations as well, because they bring such rich perspective, because they've already been working in schools as paraeducators. And so we really appreciate that they have been part of these 2 programs. This is just to show you the readings that we do, and we sequence them intentionally so that we begin looking at deficit-based theories and thinking in education and educational history, particularly in relation to thinking about students from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. But we pair that Hegistosau piece with Linda Bosch's work on everyday literacies. And then we move into, of course, Ladson Billings's work on culturally relevant pedagogy, Mole et al., and their work on funds of knowledge. And that lays the foundation. And then we share 2 pieces of our own, one of which is the gym piece we mentioned, and another piece which looks at what this work can look like from a teacher's perspective. And so I won't spend much time here, but we do take an inductive and deductive approach, looking for recurring themes and patterns across the conversations, across the student work that they do. And we look for what these recurring themes and ideas might teach us about doing this work. And this is just to show you all, to share with you how we're grounding the work that we do. We draw from the literature on both leadership and teaching, and from both culturally sustaining pedagogy and socially just pedagogy, and we bring that together.
Another framework that we're using is the framework about levels of conversation, particularly conversations where co-mentoring or mentoring is occurring. And this comes from the work of Zachary and Fischler. And in their model of conversation, there are 5 levels of conversation. The first level is monologue. That's the sage on the stage delivery like I'm doing right now. And then the second level is called transaction. And transaction would be in a conversation when the one person might ask a question and another person would answer it. Or a person would ask a question and a person would give them a list of how-tos. So that's just a back and forth, very surface level conversation. The next level of this model is called interaction. And while it continues to be a back and forth conversation, it's really not getting at a deeper level. It's not at a level that one can be vulnerable. That's the level 4. That's called the collaborative engagement level. And in collaborative engagement, we're really attentively listening. We're using inquiry. We're thinking about really probing questions that can help each other think more deeply. We're also taking a little bit of a risk. We're being vulnerable with each other. We're sharing our worries, our concerns, even sometimes our failures. And what Sarah and I are finding is that a lot of our collaborative conversations are reaching this level 4. Level 5 is dialogue. And while it doesn't often happen, it's been happening in the collaborative conversations, we believe, because there are these special moments in the conversation that really, the conversation is really asking each of us to think deeply, and that we're each holding a space for the other, the person speaking, to really be able to hear what they're saying in a new way. We're not trying to set each other straight or change each other's thinking. We're really using inquiry to deepen our understanding. And and transformational thinking is also happening at this level 5. So we use this model in our thinking about the conversations that are happening.
And so with that, we would like to now share a video segment which shows a little piece of a collaborative conversation in action. This came towards the end of our last collaborative conversation last spring. And you'll see 4 students interacting in this video segment. It's about 6.5 minutes long, I believe. And then after this, we plan to open it up for some open discussion. And then at that time, we'll ask our student partners who are here today if they'd like to share something with you all. And then of course, we'll open it up for a conversation with all of you. So again, this is about 6.5 minutes. And if it's not loud enough for you, you might try also the volume on your end. But I've got my volume turned up as loud as it will go.
Lexi, it looks familiar to you, but it was just talking about today we touched on like Lexi.
Oops, so I'm sorry, hold on. I was trying to adjust the volume. Oops. Okay, we'll try that again.
Lexi, it looks familiar to you, but it was just talking about today we touched on like the importance of names and how we really should learn how to pronounce our students' names. And that kind of just got me thinking on how we need to be intentional as teachers in building relationships with our students. And part of that is like learning their name, how to say their name. What do you like to do? What is something you can teach me? You know, like building that foundation with the kids. And then, yeah, just being intentional, because if we don't have a relationship with them, how are we supposed to, they're not gonna, you know, want to learn anything from us. So that was kind of just what stuck out to me, kind of going on my head still from some training I did today, and then this conversation. It's kind of what's going on in my brain.
Really something that I've been thinking about for the last several weeks is just having difficult conversations and allowing space within our classrooms to have and promote difficult, even controversial conversations to lead to critical thinking.
Yes.
My daughter, Brooklyn, she's this rock star at Tijuana High, and she found this group Staff for Inclusive, what is it? Inclusivity and Culture. And she was coming up with some questions, and she really wanted to talk about racism versus anti-racism. And she said, I don't know if I can even talk about this with these teachers and with these students. I might get in trouble. And I told her, no, honey, no, it is time for us to have these difficult conversations, because that is how we're going to grow. This is how we're going to have the positive social change that is needed. This is how, systemically, we are going to have a true fair system where it is truly equitable and there is social justice, just like we saw in the articles or throughout the articles. So I'm just thinking we need to start having some tough conversations. Of course, we're gentle with ourselves, and we're gentle with our class, and we're modeling what respectful conversations are, but we need to have conversations.
For me, one of the biggest things that I've made a challenge for myself to be courageous. I've shared a specific moment with our group, with Kathleen and the rest of our classmates, about a moment when I felt like I wasn't courageous, where I felt like I had this moment where I said, I don't want to do that again. I want to do more than what I did. And so I've challenged myself to make sure that I am courageous in these moments. Just like what Lauren said, like, we don't maybe sometimes have all the power in the world, but we do have power. We do have our advocacy, our support, our encouragement, our celebration holds power. And I think that for me, myself, and I guess for all of us, I would just challenge you to, when you see something that you feel like you want to stand up for, or you feel like you want to say something that's positive and to help, do it. And I love how Kelsey said, of course, we want to do that with compassion and gentleness and be a positive figure. But for myself, I've challenged myself to not just stand by the wayside in certain situations, and be willing to say, I'm going to be Jim, I'm going to be more than maybe I have been in the past, when I allowed things to just kind of slip under the, be swept under the rug maybe. And it doesn't have to be something that you go out, and create a bunch of, ripples in the water, but maybe it's something that you can do to make small steps in your own growth. And so that's kind of something that I've challenged myself with. And I would just kind of, encourage that to all of us.
I think that is very powerful, because I feel like as we get older and things happen, like, you start getting discouraged with, following what your heart desires, and I do see this with a lot of people, like, not only like in schools, but like even people that I know. Like, I remember when they were young, they were full of like they just want to do so much, and now they're just like so like done with life, and that is so, like, you saying that, like, the fact that you promise yourself that, like, I feel like, yeah, like, I just feel like we just need to remember who we are, what we love, and just always try our best. And because we were having this discussion in our group, how, like, with Jim, after he left, the environment changed completely. And I feel like a lot of the teachers felt discouraged to continue trying for what they believed for, because they didn't have that, because Jim was like that hard, how would you say, like that hard leader. Like he was the leader, he was the main head of it. And because he wasn't there to continue that, like people just decided to be like, you know what, well, now I don't want to try, you know. So yeah, just as a teacher, I feel like we should always remember what we love and what we really care for. Thank you, Freddie, for that, by the way.
Okay, so we wanted to now pause, and we wanted to first invite our past and present collaborative conversation partners that we have here with us today. Thank you so much again for joining us today. And we would love for you all to, you can share, you can address either of these questions, or you can also just share anything else that you're thinking about in relation to the collaborative conversations. So, you know, in what ways, if any, have they supported you in learning about culturally sustaining, socially just pedagogy? In what ways, if any, have you been able to enact some of these practices in your work? Or even too, it's not written here, but maybe how have, what, you know, how we always ask in collaborative conversations, what's still rolling around for you? So I don't think, do you guys want me to leave the slides up, or can I take them down for a moment? And I know we have Miriam and Zakia here, and I'm not sure if Juliana, no, she was gonna come in in a few more minutes. So we just wanted to open up the space for you to speak first, and then of course we'll open it up for everyone. So Miriam or Zakia? Oh, Miriam, okay.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead. Go ahead and start. Hi, everybody. My name is Miriam Cruz. For the life of me, I can't think what semester I participated in these conversations. I know it was pre-COVID, so spring 20, I don't know. But anyways, I think one thing that stuck out to me right now, just watching the video, is how different the conversations are. Because when we were in person, you know, we were in small groups all around the classroom, and I think obviously it's completely different, but that was very helpful because you could kind of eavesdrop into other people's conversations, and maybe you would agree with another group, or you would maybe disagree, and then talk about that in your own group. But in terms of the conversations, I thought they were just super, super helpful, especially with, you know, for example, like the people who wanted to be principals or those school leaders, because we even talked about like the stigmas, you know, that teachers may be afraid to go up to their admin, or just, you know, like scared to bring up an idea or a conversation with the principal. So we did have conversations like that, but I think it also just helped us ease and get comfortable talking to, for example, admin. And I thought that was really helpful. And then just, I'm trying to think of the video that I made for Dr. Newcomer. I think I did also mention how I liked doing the roles, like the timekeeper, the person who would take the note, the speaker, because everybody pretty much got to do one of those jobs when we presented in front of the whole class. That one person that would talk for our whole group. So that was also easy and really cool to do, because if you weren't comfortable with speaking like in large groups, then you would ease into it. And then that's something that you could do in your own classroom, do those jobs. But yeah, I think those are my thoughts. And then I haven't been teaching yet, unfortunately, but I did become a substitute for the Pasco School District, and I subbed last spring in a classroom, and this fall I was subbing here and there. And then in the video, they actually talked about, saying our students' names correctly. So becoming a sub, I was in different classrooms all the time. And I remember I like to be mindful, of names that kind of sound Hispanic, since I am Hispanic. And so I remember saying a girl's name. I said, Aurora, like, is she here? And then it was this little girl, a Caucasian girl. She's like, why'd you say my name funny? I'm like, oh, well, how do you want me to say your name? She's like, regular Aurora. I was like, okay. So, it does help. I think it does make a difference, to build, even though I was there for one day, but build those kind of relationships with your students. So, yeah.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you for sharing that. Zakia, do you want to jump in and share?
Oh, sure. I think for me, the conversation with the leadership candidates was amazing. I mean, go Freddie. I need to find out where he's going to be the principal so I can apply there. I think leadership, the article about Jim and the conversation with the leadership candidates is just, it's just so clear that leadership sets the tone. And I have worked with two really great principals, and I have actually worked with one, and the other one was in my son's school in like a project. It was like Baltimore. The area was not so great. Okay, let's put it that way. So, I mean, the kind of tone they can set and the environment they can create for students. I was on the parent side for one of them. For the other one, I was an employee. I'm a paraeducator, by the way, and I'm doing my student teaching right now. So that to me was just like leadership. So kind of motivated me to look into it. So maybe one day I can look into that. What's the other one? Oh, the other for me, for my personal growth, it's just that awareness. Like I have some awareness. I'm like, my bubble is kind of wide, but still I realized that I really don't know much about the Hispanic culture. Even though I've lived in the United States for 21 years, I really don't know much. Just how the last surnames comes together, like the mom's name goes last, which I did not know. I called a mom like by Mrs. something. He's like, no, that's not it. I was like, oops, sorry. So anyway, small little things, just my own realization that I don't know enough. I need to know more. And it's just that. And I also realized that I do have a little, not a little, maybe 50% like deficit mentality. I think I need to get out of it so that I can be a better teacher. I can serve my students better. And what I can give to the students, like, okay, I'm just going to say this one and then I'm going to end. Like this has like last week was Read Across America in the United States across, but and we kind of continued that to this week because it was a short week. We are having conference week this. So I read books for like 7 days to kids. And then because kids have questions about, what is this? What do you wear it? Why do you wear it? So I read a book. I went to the library, our school library, and got a book. It's called The Proudest Blue. Maybe you guys can read it to your students. And I read these books and I knew some things, but then I did extensive research on the book so that I can bring the world to the students and give them as much information as I can just in 20 minutes. Like, just so these are just 9-year-olds, third graders, but they can just get a glimpse of the world, the bigger world around them. And through that, hopefully the social justice and cultural, they can be better humans, because that's my goal, to make them better human beings.
Thank you, Zakia. Thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate both you and Miriam being here today and sharing your thoughts. It's just really, really wonderful to hear from you both. And so now we would like to open it up for the group. We did put some potential discussion questions there, but of course we want you to share or ask whatever you're interested in. So let us know if something resonated with you, if you would like what you'd like to know more about, or maybe tell us more. I know many of you do very similar kinds of work in your classes. I know many of you focus on culturally sustaining pedagogy and socially just pedagogy in your own work. So we'd love to hear more about what you all are doing. And if I may, before we open up the floor, I see that Juliana just popped in. Hi, Juliana. Good to see you.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good. How are you?
Good. Good. Thank you.
Good. Thanks so much for being here today, Juliana. We've just started sharing a few minutes ago, and so your timing is perfect. Juliana also participated in the collaborative conversations last spring, and I believe you're doing your student teaching currently.
Yes. So actually tomorrow is my last day, and I was like I was telling you, I have an observation in like 10 minutes. I'm super nervous. Sarah Del Toro from the administration building is coming to watch me. So yeah, I'm getting ready for that.
Juliana, thank you so much for being so generous with your time today. That's just wonderful that you're here with us. If anything you'd like to share about your experience with collaborative conversations before you need to go.
Yeah, thinking back, I think there was two main things. I feel like the collaborative conversations got me ready for the work that we do here as teachers. For like the talks that we have with all the other teachers and the administration. So that was a good practice for me, I would have to say. And then another thing that I was thinking about was just, it was so cool having so many people and different perspectives. I think it opened my mind to different points of view and got me thinking about things in different ways that I might have not have thought of just on my own. So I liked that. And I found it very helpful to talk to other people and people who are already teachers. You know, I know Zakia's a para, and it really helped us, you know, moving from stage to stage. Like as a para, I learned things, and then as a student, I'm learning so many other things. And then these other folks coming in and talking to us, it was also just very helpful, like getting all these different perspectives from all these different points of view. I really found that very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Juliana. Thank you. We so appreciate it. And I know, please feel free to pop out whenever you need to go. And I think, you know, I can speak on behalf of the whole group here. We collectively are sending you with well wishes for your observation. I know you're going to do wonderful. So please don't be nervous if you can. I know.
Thank you so much.
So we'd like to open it up to the whole group now. If you have questions or comments or thoughts that you'd like to share.
Right now that she shared, I thought about and agreed with her in terms of thinking, you know, through other people's points of views or seeing different perspectives, because I remember in our groups, I think there was 2 people who were from Native American tribes, if I remember correctly, and one of them actually worked like at a school. I can't think of the name, but I think it was like in Yakima somewhere. And I just thought that was so interesting, you know, because they have a different perspective on education, I guess, rather than just, you know, public education. So that was really cool with that, you know, the people in your groups through these collaborative conversations, you know, have different jobs, different perspectives and all of that. So.
Thank you, Miriam.
I'd like to let people know, feel free to just speak up or enter in the chat if for some reason you can't use your speaker for that. But any way you'd like to share, please do. We've got about 15 more minutes.
Can I say something? I'm just really happy to see Dr. Ernst Slevitt here. We have enjoyed her books so much. I think we read her books in 2 or 3 classes. I mean, just amazing. So thank you for everything that she does.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I have the floor, if I may say a couple of things. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing this important research. And it helps us how you're talking about collaborative research, and then you both are collaborating as professors, from different departments and working with different student populations. And that is so helpful, because in the process, I think you're probably gaining a lot of knowledge and understanding of each other's fields and populations. So thank you so much for sharing that. I also want to thank the presenters, the participants for willing to share their thoughts and their thinking, their perspectives on issues that are not easy to discuss, correct? And yet you make yourself vulnerable. You allow others to look into your challenges, and we all grow stronger and better from this kind of work. And by modeling it at the college level and in classes, I think it gives us a bit of a license to model it, to do it again with your own students at different levels. So again, presenters, thank you, participants, thank you so very much for sharing that with us. Congrats, Sarah and Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gisela. We really appreciate that. And we feel so fortunate to have these students, participants and presenters and partners here with us today. It's just been wonderful to hear their perspectives. And of course, it's just been really delightful to work with Kathleen, of course, to work across departments, to work across disciplines. And of course, Gisela, it's been a pleasure to work with you as well. These students, Miriam, it was in our second cohort of ELL Impact. And of course, Zakia has been part of that state route, alternative route program. And Juliana, I can't remember if you were in the alt program as well, but it's so wonderful that we've had these programs, Gisela, because I mean, I know, as you know very well, the wonderful funds of knowledge that these folks bring to our classes.
Yeah, it's refreshing to collaborate this way, because it's a good reminder, for just reminds of the common goal that we're all here for. So it's just very refreshing to keep talking and collaborating and knowing that we're all here for the same reasons. It's really cool.
Do we have any other questions, comments?
My question is, when will you be publishing it? Are you collecting more data in this semester? Or are you done?
Thank you, Zakia. That's a wonderful question. Do you want to jump in, Kathleen?
Well, we're hoping to, we're hoping to continue working, continue working on this project, and we have some big plans to possibly bring together, the collaborative conversation participants for maybe a collaborative conversation reunion, and continue to follow up on hearing from the participants from our partners going forward in terms of maybe doing some focus group work or reunions. We want to bring you together. We'd like to pull a thread longitudinally over the time that we're working with all of you. So, and we're actually, maybe even envisioning offering some kind of professional development about how to get collaborative conversations going in other locations. So those are some of our hopes and dreams, for sure.
And we'd love for you all to help us as well, if you are interested in keeping this work going and carrying it forward.
I'm seeing this as potential for a big national grant. It could be a model for the whole nation in the future. It's very exciting. Thank you for sharing this. Do we have any more final questions or comments?
Sarah, did we want to share the slide about the secret sauce, or are we?
Yes. Thank you, Kathleen. Let's do that.
Okay. If we have time, Laura.
Yes, we have time. We have 7 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, and we would love to, again, this is we would love to hear from all of you, but Kathleen and I have been trying to think about what makes these conversations special. I think our student partners, they say it the best, but we've been thinking, okay, well, what are the components that allow us to do this? And so we have some shared processes and practices that we use, which actually, I believe it was Miriam was talking about the roles that we use for our small groups. And we actually had some other slides that we could share, but, we use communication norms. We use the shared readings as a basis for our conversation. So we have those in place.
And group agreements and how we're going to be together, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. And then we feel like that's sort of right, that comes first. And then we get sort of all this other stuff that kind of like bubbles together, and we have, then it leads to story sharing. And those are often lived stories, right? The lived stories from our lives. And it also takes time. And it takes time for that trust to develop through the sharing. And then Kathleen, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about some of those others.
Well, we really, as a part of our group agreements, we seek to really practice deep listening, attentive listening. And we really also, as part of our group agreements, seek to affirm one another. And one of the pieces that Sarah and I have been kind of kicking around is this idea of shared novicedom, because the educational, the future aspiring school leaders are in a place of transition. They're transitioning from this role as teacher into this new role. And our teacher candidates are transitioning from their roles as student teachers. And of course, our alternative route students are coming from years of experience as paraprofessional educators. They're bringing that sort of to this threshold where they're crossing over into new roles. So we've been talking about that. Maybe that's part of this special sauce, this space where they occupy this crossing over, and they're thinking about this change in their roles. So we've been thinking about that, along with this idea of really encouraging the comments. Both Sarah and I we're okay with silence. We, you know, if the question is asked, we'll use that wait time. We'll pause, and that is a part of our group agreements, that sometimes we need to welcome that silence so that we can really think about what we want to say. And so that idea of holding the space and not feeling like we have to just jump in and fill it, but to think about really thoughtfully what we want to say. So those are a couple of things that we've been kicking around.
Wonderful. Do we have any comments on what was just shared? I really love this secret sauce. Great graphic.
Thank you. We had fun with it. We were curious too, you know, with our student partners who are here, if they have other ingredients that they might add, or just from all of you, some of the ingredients that you use in your own work. Again, we know that folks here do this kind of work with your own students. And so we'd love to add to our secret sauce.
Gotta add some love.
And before any sharing, just letting you know, we just have about 2 minutes and then I'll be closing, but there is time for some of you to share your secret sauce ingredients.
We're gonna add love, Zakia. That's a good one.
Beautiful.
I guess maybe respect. It might go into one of those though, because like you guys said, and we went through it, you know, you have to respect other people's thoughts and ideas, and we want to be respected for ours. So.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Absolutely, I agree. We have that as one of our group agreements in terms of you know, mutual respect. Absolutely.
Okay, well, if there aren't any more ingredients, we've got plenty of good ones. I love that, love and respect and all this. And I wanted to thank Sarah and Kathleen for a very thoughtful and engaging research conversation. Loved having the video, the honesty of everyone who shared, the student leaders who shared, all the attendees for your thoughtful discussion and participation. It's been a very meaningful research conversation and very positive at this time in history. Just wonderful to get together with you all. And I wanted to let you know we're having another research conversation on April 15th, and the Dean of the College of Education, Mike Trevison, will be sharing with us at that time, and you'll all receive advertisements through the COE list. But again, this was just absolutely wonderful, very heartfelt sharing, very interesting ideas. We really appreciate everyone's attendance, and Sarah and Kathleen for speaking today.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Shola. Thank you to all of you for joining us, and thank you, Miriam and Zakia and Juliana as well for helping us present today.
It was wonderful to see you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.